All right, today we're going to talk about something that gets overlooked all the time, but it is absolutely one of the most critical parts of any real emergency plan, and that's sanitation. Look, I know it's not glamorous, but getting this wrong is one of the fastest ways a tough situation turns into a deadly one. So let's just dive right in. I mean, that's a pretty intense way to start, right? But here's the thing. It's not an exaggeration. Not at all. You look at the history of any long-term crisis where the grid goes down, I'm talking major natural disasters, societal breakdowns, you name it, the biggest killer isn't violence, it's disease. And where does that disease come from? Almost always, it starts with the complete collapse of modern sanitation. And that, right there, brings us to the first war you're likely to lose in a crisis. And it's not fought against some external enemy. No, this one is internal. It's a biological war against an invisible enemy that you and everyone around you are creating every single day. You know, we all have this image in our heads of what being prepared looks like, right? It's all very Hollywood, defending the perimeter, guarding supplies. But the boring, simple, real threat is so much quieter. The moment that toilet stops flushing, your home, your sanctuary, can turn into a literal breeding ground for disease. That is the statistical reality. Okay, so how do we fight this thing? Well, first we've got to understand it. We need to take this invisible danger, these pathogens, and make them visible, make them tangible. And believe it or not, we can do that with one really simple but powerful idea. Let's talk about something called the R-naught, or you might hear it called R0. All this number tells you is how contagious a disease is. So if a disease has an R-naught of, say, 2, it just means that one sick person is probably going to infect 2 other people. It's basically a scorecard for how fast a fire is going to spread. And this chart, wow, this really puts it into perspective. We all know the seasonal flu, right? Its R-naught is around 1.3, bounces around a bit. Now look at cholera, a classic disease that just thrives when sanitation goes down. Its R-naught can be as high as 18. That's not just an increase, that's an explosion. It's the difference between a spark and an absolute firestorm. And that is why this is so critical. In a world with no flushing toilets, no wastewater treatment, diseases like cholera and dysentery have found their perfect home. Your immediate environment becomes the ideal incubator for these super spreaders, putting everyone in your group at immediate risk. Okay, I know that sounds absolutely terrifying, but here's the really good news, the amazing news, really. The solution to this massive threat is shockingly simple. It is cheap, and it is incredibly effective. It's called the 2-bucket defense. The whole idea, the genius of it, is this simple. You get 2 buckets. You dedicate 1 bucket for liquids only and the other bucket for solids only. That's it. That is the entire foundation of the system. Its genius is just how simple it is. But why? Why go to the trouble of separating them? Well, it all comes down to basic biology. You see, the really nasty bugs that make us sick, they need a wet, moist environment to just go crazy and multiply. By separating the liquids from the solids, you're denying them the water they need. You basically pull the plug on their little pathogen party. And as a huge bonus, it cuts down on the smell. A lot. All right, so you get the what and the why. Now let's talk about the how. And trust me, building and maintaining this system is something that absolutely anyone can do right now with stuff that's easy to find and super affordable. This is so easy. Step 1, get your 2 buckets and a big fat marker and label them liquids and solids. Seriously, you do not want to get these mixed up. Step 2, every time you use the solids bucket, you add a layer of cover material on top. And step 3, and this is totally non-negotiable, you seal both buckets with a tight-fitting lid after every single use. Containment is the name of the game. Okay, here's what you need to grab. 2 basic 5-gallon buckets with lids that seal tight. Some kind of cover material, clay-based kitty litter works great, so does sawdust. And then, of course, toilet paper and hand sanitizer for hygiene. You can get this entire setup for less than you'd spend on pizza night for the family. It's a no-brainer. And that quote just nails it, doesn't it? We have to change how we think about this. An emergency toilet isn't a luxury. It has nothing to do with comfort. It is a critical piece of medical equipment. It is your biological firewall. It's what stops a small problem from becoming a catastrophe for your entire group. So let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway here? It's actually incredibly empowering when you think about it. The number one threat, the thing most likely to get you and your family in a real grid-down situation, you can defeat it. Not with some fancy, expensive gear, but with 2 plastic buckets, some kitty litter, and the discipline to do it right. That is powerful. So I'll just leave you with this one thought to chew on as you go over your own plans. You've probably spent a lot of time thinking about how to keep threats out. Your perimeter is secure, but have you really secured your home from the enemy that's already inside?